For 10 years, I was the main character in a life I didn't write. I had the perfect job at a prestigious firm, the kind of job that makes people nod with approval. I had the beautiful apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that never slept, much like me. I had the perfectly curated social media feed, a highlight reel of expensive dinners, exotic vacations, and a smiling, successful man. From the outside, it looked like I had caught perfection. But what no one tells you is what happens when you catch it, and you realise you're the one who's been caught in a cage. There's this deep, soul-crushing feeling that comes with knowing that none of it is actually yours, that your smile is a performance, your confidence is a costume, and your entire existence has become an exercise in getting other people to approve of you. We're told to chase the dream, but nobody warns you about the nightmare of waking up inside of it. This isn't just the story of how I walked away from that perfect life. This is the raw confession of how I took it all apart, piece by piece, and the exact step-by-step blueprint I used to stop performing and finally start living. The life I built was a fortress of achievement. By 28, I was a senior consultant, a title that sounded important and, more importantly, paid like it. My days were a blur of high-stakes presentations, colour-coded spreadsheets, and the relentless hum of productivity. I spoke the language of metrics, deliverables, and optimization. I wore my busyness like a badge of honour, truly believing that the more exhausted I was, the more valuable I must be. The hustle culture I was swimming in promised that if I just kept grinding, I'd eventually feel like I was enough. That promise is a lie. My life looked incredible on paper. I could afford the clothes, the trips, the kind of life that magazines sell you. I remember posting a photo from a balcony in Santorini, cocktail in hand, with some caption about living the dream. The comments poured in. "Your goals! So inspiring. I want your life." And I just remember staring at my phone in that beautiful place, feeling nothing. An emptiness so vast it echoed. The person in that photo felt like a stranger I was managing, a brand I had to maintain. There's a term for this: identity fusion. It's a state where your self-worth becomes completely welded to your performance. My job title wasn't just what I did, it was who I was. A positive performance review felt like a validation of my entire existence. A critical email could send me into a spiral of self-doubt that would steal my sleep for a week. I wasn't a human being, I was a human doing. The real cost of this performance was paid in missed moments. I missed my niece's 3rd birthday for a critical project deadline that, for the life of me, I can't remember now. I cancelled dates. I bailed on friends. I let priceless calls from my mum go to voicemail, all in service of a career that was consuming me whole. Each missed moment was just another brick in the wall I was building around myself, isolating me from the very things that make a life worth living. And my body was keeping the score. The fake smile I wore in meetings felt physically heavy by the end of the day. I was fueled by caffeine and cortisol, running on fumes. I'd lie in bed at 2 a.m, my mind racing with anxieties about the next day, my body buzzing with an exhaustion so deep that sleep couldn't touch it. I was experiencing chronic burnout, which we now know isn't some personal failure, but a structural problem with how we've been taught to work. Studies consistently show that working the long hours I was glorifying dramatically increases your risk of serious health issues, like stroke and heart disease. I wasn't just tired, I was eroding my own health for a paycheck and a pat on the back. The worst part was the profound sense of alienation. I'd catch my reflection in the polished elevator doors of my office building and feel a jolt of non-recognition. Who was that person with the tired eyes and the forced, tight posture? She looked successful. She looked like she had it all together. But she didn't look like me. The breaking point wasn't some dramatic, movie-like explosion. It was a quiet, suffocating implosion. It happened on a Sunday night. I was sitting in my perfect apartment, the city lights twinkling below like a million tiny, indifferent stars. I'd just gotten back from another one of those Instagram-worthy vacations, and the only thing I felt was a tidal wave of dread. The thought of Monday morning, of putting on the costume and performing for another 70-hour week, was physically nauseating. My chest felt tight, my breathing was shallow. It wasn't just the Sunday scaries. This was a profound, existential panic. I had spent my entire life following the rules. I was the good student, the reliable employee, the successful woman. I did everything I was supposed to do. And in that moment, I was slammed with a terrifying truth. The path I was on, the one everyone celebrated, was leading me absolutely nowhere I wanted to go. The debate inside my head was deafening. "You can't just quit," one voice screamed. "This is a good job. People would kill for this life. You're being ungrateful. You'll be a failure." That fear of judgment, of losing the status I had worked so hard to build, was paralyzing. For years, it had been the invisible fence that kept me locked in my golden cage. But then another voice, a quieter one I hadn't heard in years, whispered something else. What if you just walked away? What if you chose yourself? That night, something shifted. I realised I had two choices. I could continue to let my life happen to me, basically a passenger in a car driving off a cliff, or I could grab the steering wheel. The whole cultural conversation around the Great Resignation often frames quitting as just an escape. But I knew that simply running away wasn't enough. Tons of people who leave their jobs on impulse end up with what they call the great regret, swapping workplace anxiety for financial anxiety. I didn't want to just run from this life. I needed a plan to run towards a new one. It hit me with stunning clarity. I had spent 10 years meticulously architecting a life that was making me miserable. I had used discipline, strategy, and relentless focus to build my own prison. So what if I applied that same skill set, that same dedication, not to proving my worth to the world, but to building a life that felt authentic to me? That was the moment. The decision wasn't just to quit. The decision was to begin the deliberate, structured process of rebuilding. I wasn't going to leave my fate to chance. I was going to design my own rescue mission. I was going to create a blueprint. This is the part that changed everything. It's not about finding yourself, because you are not lost. You are buried. Buried under a decade of expectations, other people's definitions of success, and the noise of the world telling you who you should be. This blueprint is about the excavation. It's a 3-step process I created to dismantle the life that was crushing me and build one based on what I call authentic success. Step 1. The brutal honesty audit. For years, I had been lying to myself. I'd say I loved the challenge when I was actually drowning in anxiety. I'd say I was thriving under pressure when I was really falling apart. The first step had to be radical, unflinching honesty. So I became a consultant for my own life. For 1 full week, I took out a simple notebook and created a log. Every hour, I wrote down what I was doing, and right next to it, I rated how it made me feel, on a scale from -5, soul-draining misery, to +5, energizing, pure joy. The results were horrifying and liberating. A typical day looked like this. 6 a.m. Check work emails in bed. Feeling -3. Instant anxiety. 8 a.m. Team meeting to review project status. Feeling -4. Performance pressure. Bored. 12 p.m. Eat a sad salad at my desk while answering emails. Feeling -2. Numb. 3 p.m. Client call with tough feedback. Feeling -5. Stressed and defensive. 7 p.m. 30 minutes scrolling social media to unwind. Feeling -2. Comparison. Empty. 9 p.m. A 10-minute phone call with my sister. Feeling +4. Connection. Real laughter. 10 p.m. Reading 1 chapter of a fantasy novel. Feeling +5. Escape. Calm. After 7 days, the data was undeniable. My life was a sea of negative numbers, with these tiny, isolated islands of positive ones. The things I was spending 90% of my time on, the things that defined my so-called perfect life, were the very things destroying me. And the small moments of genuine joy, I was treating those as afterthoughts, little rewards for surviving another day of misery. This wasn't about vague feelings. This was about data. My own life's data was telling me a story I could no longer ignore. This audit is the first step, because it turns that foggy unhappiness into a concrete, evidence-based diagnosis. You pinpoint the exact energy vampires and soul fillers in your day-to-day life. It forces you to confront how you're actually spending your one precious life. Step 2. Define your enough, the core values compass. Perfectionism is a game you can never win, because the goalposts are always moving, and they're always being set by someone else. The antidote to perfectionism isn't imperfection. It's alignment. It's about replacing the world's scoreboard with your own internal compass. Taking the data from my brutal honesty audit, I looked at all the activities that scored a +3, +4, or +5. I wasn't just looking at the activities themselves, but the feeling behind them. That call with my sister wasn't just a call. It was about connection. Reading that novel wasn't just a story. It was about creativity and imagination. A walk I took in the park one day without my phone scored a +4. It wasn't about the walking. It was about calm and presence. Helping a junior colleague figure out a problem scored a +3. It was about mentorship and being useful. From this, I distilled my 4 core values. These became my non-negotiables, the pillars for a life that would actually feel like mine. Connection, creativity, calm, and usefulness. This became my new decision-making filter. This is how you stop asking, what do they expect of me? And start asking, what do I stand for? Before taking on a new project, before saying yes to a social invitation, Before making any big choice, I'd run it through my compass. Does this move me closer to calm? Will this let me be creative or useful? Does this honour my need for real connection? If the answer was a hard no, then the decision was simple, even if the action was difficult. I once turned down a lucrative freelance project my old self would have killed for. It was prestigious and paid incredibly well, but I knew it meant 14-hour days, huge stress, and zero creative input. It violated 3 of my 4 values. Saying no was terrifying, but it was the first time I felt truly in control of my life. This is how you define your personal metric for enough. It's not a number in a bank account. It's a feeling of alignment in your soul. If this idea of trading a life of perfection for a life of alignment is hitting home for you, do me a favour and drop a compass emoji in the comments. It's a small signal to yourself and to everyone else here that you're ready to find your own true north. Step 3. The micro-leap method. The thought of quitting my job and dismantling my entire life was terrifying. A single giant leap into the unknown felt impossible. And this is where most people get stuck. They see the massive gap between where they are and where they want to be, and they freeze. So, I didn't take one giant leap. I took 100 tiny ones. I call this the micro-leap method. A micro-leap is the smallest, least scary action you can take to start building evidence that a different life is possible. It's a small experiment designed to challenge your biggest fears. It's not about changing your life overnight. It's about slowly gathering proof that your fears are liars. Here's how I applied it based on my values. For my value of calm, my perfectionist brain told me, if you're not always available, you'll be seen as a slacker and it'll all fall apart. So my micro-leap was to leave the office at 5:30 p.m. just one day a week and turn my work phone completely off until the next morning. The first time I did it, I was riddled with anxiety. But what happened? Absolutely nothing. The company didn't fold. No one even noticed. The evidence I gathered was my catastrophic fear was wrong. For my value of connection, my exhausted self would say, I'm just too tired to see people. The micro-leap was to schedule one non-cancelable lunch per week with a friend. No work talk allowed. It felt like an indulgence at first, an hour of unproductive time. But that 1 hour would fill my energy tank more than a whole weekend of resting on the couch. The evidence gathered? Real connection is fuel, not a luxury. Each micro-leap was a small vote for the person I wanted to become. Each one chipped away at the power of fear and built up the power of self-trust. Over months, these tiny steps created unstoppable momentum. Leaving my job, the thing that once felt like jumping off a cliff, eventually felt like the next logical step on a path I had already paved myself. I look back at the person I was 10 years ago, that ghost in a power suit, and I feel so much compassion for her. She was doing the best she could with the tools she was given. She thought the top of the ladder was the goal, without ever stopping to ask if the ladder was leaning against the right wall. Quitting that life was the hardest and most important decision I've ever made. But the journey from that perfect life to my current one wasn't a matter of luck or some sudden epiphany. It was a matter of design. It was the brutal honesty audit that forced me to see the truth. It was the core values compass that gave me a new direction. And it was the micro-leap method that gave me the courage to actually walk the path. This is a journey away from hustle culture and toward a more gentle, sustainable way of living. A shift that is defining our time. The most powerful lesson in all of this is that you are not starting from scratch. You are starting from experience. All those years you spent learning to be disciplined, strategic, and to build something, you can now redeploy those exact skills to build a life that is honest, useful, and kind to yourself. You're simply changing clients from the world to yourself. Success isn't about being the best. It's about being aligned. It's the profound privilege of spending your energy on what you believe in, with people you respect, in a way that lets you sleep peacefully at night. So, I'll leave you with this question. It's the one I had to ask myself in that quiet, desperate moment in my apartment all those years ago. If you stripped away everything you're currently chasing, the status, the money, the approval, would you be happy with what's left? Let me know your truth in the comments. Thank you for being here with me today. If this resonated, giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel helps more than you know. Let's build lives we don't need to escape from. I'll see you in the next one.